price of Bitcoin has surged today as financial institutions from BlackRock to WisdomTree continue to give their Bitcoin blessings.
Indeed, BlackRock, the world's biggest asset manager, is reportedly close to filing an application for a Bitcoin ETF.
So this is crazy. Bitcoin reached over $30,000 this week, and on Binance, it spiked to $138,000 for a split second. Now that was probably an error, but people are wondering, why is Bitcoin going up with all the bad news that it's been facing lately? Especially with the SEC coming after the largest US exchange, Coinbase, for operating unregistered securities. They're going after the largest exchange in the world, Binance, with 13 separate charges, Gemini, and the list goes on and on. So it seems like the SEC does not want to make it easy for Bitcoin/crypto businesses to exist within the US, but somehow Bitcoin is surpassing everyone's expectations.
Over the last 4 days, Bitcoin is up 20%, nearing a 52-week high.
Sentiment has been high in crypto since late last week when BlackRock filed an application for what would be the first ever spot Bitcoin ETF in the US.
And now they're saying the wolf is entering the henhouse and that there's a new wave and a new earthquake coming for crypto. Now, if you've never heard of BlackRock before, they are considered to be one of just 2 companies that apparently own the entire world. And that's not too far of an exaggeration. BlackRock is the biggest asset management company in the world with close to $10 trillion worth of money that they oversee. And they're now applying for a spot Bitcoin ETF, which could give access to trillions and trillions of dollars that could flow into Bitcoin through investments that today don't have access to. Pension funds, institutions, hedge funds, sovereign funds, mom and dad, grandpa, grandma. And this is now leaving people with a lot of questions about what's going on and why is this happening right now? Why is the biggest asset management company in the world applying for an ETF at the same time that the US government has made it very clear that they want almost nothing to do with Bitcoin and crypto? Does BlackRock know something everyone else doesn't? Is this an inside job? And is Bitcoin gonna explode in price? And this is what I wanna talk about and help explain in today's video, so let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the long overdue Bitcoin update. Told you, not a crypto channel, but this is really exciting news. So first, let me start off by explaining WTF an ETF actually is and how it affects Bitcoin. Now, an ETF is just a pool of money that invests into a specific thing. In this case, Bitcoin. If approved, this spot Bitcoin ETF will be the first of its kind in the US, even though we have had other Bitcoin ETFs in the past. For example, in 2021, Canada got the approval for their first ETF. There was also the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which is in the US and dates all the way back to 2013. But there's a huge catch, because most, if not all of these types of Bitcoin ETFs require you to be what's called an accredited investor, meaning you have to have a lot of money just to have access to buy these types of assets, which in most cases is not even the asset itself. Like for example, BITO. This is the first Bitcoin ETF that was ever created, and it deals in futures. In other words, contracts that speculate or guess the future price of Bitcoin, but it's not Bitcoin itself. And these usually have a very high expense ratio, which means you have to pay a lot of money just to own them. But a spot Bitcoin ETF allows you to track the price directly. So if Bitcoin's price goes up, so does this ETF and vice versa. Now, hold on. Why all of this complexity and hype over an ETF? Why not just keep it simple, right? Buy the Bitcoin online, send it offline to be stored on cold storage. It's a really good question, and there's a couple reasons. First, not everyone has the time to make an account online on one of these exchanges because most people don't even trust these exchanges anymore, especially with their social security numbers. 2, most people don't have the knowledge to send their Bitcoin offline to a cold storage wallet. And 3, most people don't want to take the risk of having their own passwords and then losing access to all of their Bitcoin. But most importantly, it's because of flexibility. A spot ETF, for example, allows Bitcoin to be purchased by things like your 401k account from your job, and even your IRAs, like your Roth and traditional IRAs. They can also be used to calculate what's called the AUM, or assets under management, which will allow you to borrow against your assets or leverage. Now, in theory, it would also make buying Bitcoin a lot more cost-effective because it would probably be an off-chain transaction, which means buying and selling would be a lot cheaper. You'd also probably be able to stake your Bitcoin and earn some passive income. And you'd be able to do all of that with the same ease and safety as buying a stock from your favorite brokerage without the hassle of signing up to some random online website and going through their KYC. And all of this affects not only individual investors like grandpa and grandma, but also the bigger players who right now are sometimes not allowed to invest into Bitcoin directly. But with this opens the Pandora's box. Now, personally, I've always been a big believer of Bitcoin, and that's why I like to work with those that align with my same goals, which is to make money more accessible around the world while empowering other people to take control of their financial well-being. And that's why I'm super excited about today's sponsor, Cash App. They're one of the largest public companies to support Bitcoin and the first public company to support the Lightning Network. And that is one of the most anticipated features in the industry. And here are just some of the things you can do with Cash App. For example, you can buy Bitcoin for as little as $1. You can send and receive Bitcoin off-chain. You can deposit and withdraw Bitcoin on-chain. And there's also the auto buy feature that allows me to dollar cost average into Bitcoin on a schedule so I don't have to try to time the market. And you can also give Bitcoin to your friends and family and auto invest your spare change through roundups with your Cash Card purchases. And if you're a true believer, Cash App even allows you to invest a portion of your paycheck automatically into Bitcoin. But my personal favorite feature is something that everyone's been waiting for. If you want to give the gift of Bitcoin, you can send Bitcoin to others for free by using the Lightning Network. To get started, it's really easy. Just go to the bottom of the app and then tap the payments $ icon on your Cash App to get to the home screen. Then go to the upper left-hand corner and tap the QR code scanner. Then hold your phone over the Lightning invoice QR code, scan it. Mine looks something like this, and then follow the prompts to confirm and pay the request. It's that easy. And the best part is that you own 100% of your Bitcoin on Cash App. Cash App is super beginner friendly, it's extremely easy to use, so give them a try using my link down below. Thank you, Cash App, for sponsoring this segment of the video, and now let's get back to it. So the ultimate question is, if this is approved, what could happen to Bitcoin's price? And I want to give a disclaimer here because I have no idea what's going to happen to Bitcoin's price. I'm optimistic, but I also want to be realistic. So let me give you a realistic example using gold. Gold didn't always have an ETF. At one point, you could only buy certificates in shares or just physically buy it yourself. But it wasn't the same as an ETF, which was a collective pool of money buying the same thing. But on November 18, 2004, the first gold spot ETF was born, the SPDR Gold Trust ETF, ticker symbol GLD. At that time, the price of gold was below $450 an ounce. And here's what happened after in the years that followed. By 2011, roughly 7 years later, the price of gold was close to $2,000 per ounce. Now granted, there are a lot of reasons why gold went up in that time frame. People didn't trust their government, and there were periods of high inflation. But you could also argue that the creation of the spot ETF gave access to people that otherwise didn't want the hassle of physically owning and safely storing their gold, and people would make that trade-off today. But that's gold. What about Bitcoin? Here's some rough back-of-the-napkin math here for you of the potential of some of the money that could flow into it. This is not a price prediction, this is just a hypothetical. For example, looking at the top 100 asset management companies in the world, they control about $57 trillion, give or take. Let's just round it up to 60 to keep it simple. Now, I don't think it's fair to assume that all of that money will go into Bitcoin because that's not happening. Instead, let's assume we'd be lucky if only 1% of all the money makes it into Bitcoin. That's about $600 billion. And right now, Bitcoin's market cap is $580 billion, which roughly doubles the market cap. And the last time Bitcoin was at roughly $1.2 trillion was in November 2021, when Bitcoin reached $67,500. So on paper, it looks like the price would double. Double the market cap, double the price. But that is completely wrong because that's not what a market cap is. A market cap is nothing more than the average latest sales price aggregated across all exchanges multiplied by the supply, which in this case is constant at 21 million. What that means is it will take a lot less than 600 billion real dollars to double the price, just like it would take a lot less than $600 billion worth of selling pressure to crash the price. So if you're still confused, here's a really beautiful analogy that I'm really proud of coming up with. So in this deck of cards, there are 52 individual playing cards that I'm now spinning ironically on my finger. But let's say someone came up to me and was like, Andre, I really like this deck of cards and I want to purchase this one card for $1. If they do, that would bring the average purchase price to $1, and that would mean the market cap of this deck is now $52, right? $1 for every card, $52. But now let's assume someone comes up to me and wants to buy a couple of the next few for $2, bringing up the average to $2. Well, now I multiply 2 times 52 to get 104. But then let's assume someone FOMOs in and starts spending $5 for the next couple cards. If the average is closer to now $5, I can multiply 5 times 52 to get $260 worth of market cap. But then I tell the world I'm not going to print any more of these cards. There's only going to be 52 in the world ever that exists. Well, now let's say the last couple people to buy a card spend an insane amount of money, like $50 or $100. And if the average is brought up closer to $20 per card, well, now the market cap for this deck of cards could be over $1,000, even though nowhere near 1,000 real dollars was spent on buying it. Just remember, the market cap is an assumption, not a fact. The real price depends on the supply and the amount of coins listed for sale and what people choose to pay for them. And that can change very quickly, and that's what the market cap will say. Now, I don't know what the price will be, but I am pretty confident that if there's $600 billion worth of real money trying to do real buying, then the price progression doesn't necessarily have to be linear. We think to ourselves, based on math, it should 2x, but that's not necessarily true. I don't want to make a price prediction because I'll probably be wrong. All I know is that I'm just making a broad assumption about how much money could potentially enter this space, and I'm leaving out a lot of other money. That's probably not all of the institutional money that's available. There's also a lot of other ones like sovereign funds and pension funds and individual investors and grandpa, grandma. It's also why major players like Valkyrie, Bitwise, Wisdom Tree, and Invesco are all applying for their own spot Bitcoin ETF. They all want a piece of the potential trillions of dollars that they could manage and collect management fees from. Now hold on a minute before you type, Andrei's just shilling Bitcoin again. Hopefully, we're all old enough to understand that we don't have to buy and invest into everything the internet talks about. Every single day, I hear about 100 price predictions about Tesla or Palantir stock, and I probably miss out on half a dozen investments per day that could have 100x'd my money, but I don't buy them, and that's okay. For the same reason, I don't feel FOMO and compelled to gamble every time I walk through a casino. Just because I see other people winning doesn't mean I have to chase them down their same path. In fact, most of my money is still invested with VTI, the broader stock market, and the blue chip dividend stocks where I know they'll make me money slowly, and that's the path I've chosen. But I've also invested a little bit of money in other asset classes that I think might make me money, and some of them might not. And that's the path I've chosen, but ultimately it comes down to your personal preference. As always, focus on your own investment journey, ignore the noise, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, don't forget to grab your free stocks, the links are down below, and then go track them automatically with a spreadsheet link down below in my Patreon. Love you, thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to see you back here on Monday, Friday, sometimes a Wednesday. See you soon, bye bye.